Yes, and we're live. We are live with the three students over there. How's it doing today? Sorry for the delay. We had a little technical difficulties, but we are right here ready to give you guys all the talk about what's happening in New York real estate. So right now we have Joanne McFarland Ebanks from the Corcoran Group and a part of the Charlie Lewis team. Welcome, Joe.
Hey.
We have Nicole Adams Thompson Adams, from Compass. And we have the one and only Scott Illinois, now Illinois, from Compass as well. So welcome, guys. So glad for you guys to sit in for this lunch and learn. We apologize for being late, but we had a little technical difficulties. So hope you guys can see us out there and everything is okay. So we want to kick it off with just letting everybody know New York real estate is so interesting and so different, especially now for everybody that is in the marketplace or looking at the marketplace. And the reason being is because New York is so tight and so densely populated. We have different makeup of property, from co-op to condos, to HDFC, which is income restricted properties, to townhouses, townhomes. So it makes up a unique mix of properties that we have. Every neighborhood is different. Every neighborhood offers something special, and every neighborhood is experiencing right now what we know as COVID-19. So I am glad to have these three with you guys today, because these are some of my confidants in the business. They know the business. They're consultants to the business. They know real estate inside and out, and they know New York inside and out. They're very passionate about New York and what New York has to offer. So you can't go wrong with this foursome right here. So everybody, welcome to the show.
Good to see you.
So let's start out. Scotty, what's going on? You're down in the village right now. I know you got sellers and you got renters and you got some buyers. Right now, what are you seeing from the sales side of the market with any of your potential sellers that you might have that might be interested in getting on the market to sell their home?
Well, it's interesting down here in the village. Most of my clients are, Village, Gramercy, Chelsea, West Village, Soho. Everybody's waiting. If they're not desperate to sell, they're going to wait. And the amount of inventory that's out there, it would be like listing now or listing, let's say, 30 days ago, would be like listing your apartment on December 24th. Like, nobody advises that. So buyers are not going to buy without seeing the property physically. I mean, they definitely want to do their online searches and stuff like that, but they really have to be in there physically. So my sellers are holding off. My buyers are holding off, but they're still looking. So everybody's still engaged from wherever they are in the world, but we're just waiting for the big release. I have a couple properties that are in contract, but it's properties that were shown and in contract prior to March 10th. And we're waiting for them to close.
Okay. Nicole, are you seeing the same thing?
No, I'm seeing something a little different over here on my side here in Brooklyn. I had a number of properties that finally did close, and they took longer closing because of the new closing environment where you're not there. Everybody's doing things virtually. We have notaries who are virtual and all of that. So the closings were a little bit more complex. And then people who nobody put it on the market, just like Scotty said, after 10th, it's like after March 10th, it was like, or March 12th, it was like putting your on the market for like Christmas. But now I am starting to see over the last 2 weeks, properties entering as just listed here in Brooklyn. Like I have something in Kensington. I saw another one in Fort Greene. So a couple other properties are now starting to come back in. I think people are starting to feel more confident, and the buyers are out there. They're definitely, looking around.
Okay. Joanne, do you have any potential sellers that are looking to do anything, or buyers?
I think my sellers were already had properties on the market. They didn't want to take it off the market. We have days on the market listed. So you can tell how long a property has been sitting. And if a property has been sitting for a very long time, people will be less interested in it. But right now, they've put a freeze on that, on the monitoring of days on the market. So it kind of doesn't matter how long your property has been on the market. So people are just keeping their properties on the market if it was already there. My buyers have decided, well, just recently I had a buyer who's like nothing ever happened, totally ready to move forward. But I have had buyers, foreign buyers are very interesting. They can always go home. So I think I have foreign buyers who are just like, we're gonna wait and see. Right. And that makes sense to me. You have to know I think if you're a New Yorker and you're gonna be in New York, and that's a specific breed. Mm-hmm. You're shopping, you're doing everything you were doing no matter what. If you are you've been thinking about making New York your home, you've been here for a little while, you've got a lay of the land, but you're just not sure, is this really for me over the long haul? Then I think you're waiting.
Right. I think one thing about what I'm seeing a mix of, I think what you said, Scotty, a little bit what you said, Joanne, and a little bit of Nicole. From my vantage point, I have sellers who we were getting ready to go in the market. I was getting ready to go in the market with a good 6-7 listings. And then the brakes got put on. And then I have a couple of sellers now that are saying, okay, we're ready to go June 1st, regardless of the situation. We want to be in front of the curve. So you got some sellers like that saying, hey, I want to be ahead of the game. Let me get ahead of the game. And then I have buyers who are now working with that I am actually showing virtual plans with properties in Brooklyn and Manhattan, basically uptown, but not really downtown much, mostly uptown and in Brooklyn, where prices stem around 500,000 to, I would say, up to 3 million. And my buyers currently right now are in that range of 500,000 to 1.5. They need to move. They have to come to New York. They have a job on the line. So they're here. And so they're doing everything virtually. So I'm looking at it from that perspective. And my seller right now, currently, they are totally ready to go because they bought a house upstate. It was already in contract. So they got to get out of the situation that they're in. So that's what we're starting to see there. What about new development? Are you doing anything? Is anybody working with any new development or new developments moving? You think what do you think is going to be the lay of the land for a lot of the new developments right now?
I think there are a lot of opportunities. You can really negotiate in a way you couldn't before. So that was going to be, if that's what you were going to be shopping for, I see no reason to not move on that right now. Not in a few weeks, not in a few months, right now. Because I think you can get concessions that you aren't going to be able to get in the future, and you weren't able to get in the past.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what a lot of people outside the city don't know is that for new development, we're buying sight unseen anyway, for the most part. You're not walking into the property. So in that sense, it's no different. But if I would not want to be a developer right now, but but if I was, I'm going to start making deals right now. Right. What we're not going to see is you don't want to be the first developer to have the biggest price cuts. So they're going to wait to have the public price cuts be later, to follow a trend later. They don't want to do it right now. So it's a good time, like Joanne was saying, to kind of get in there and kind of negotiate and also get some incentives. So incentives could be like free maintenance and, you know, paid taxes for 5 years. It could be a free parking space, you know, that normally goes for 100,000. It could be, you know, who knows, amenities and common charges paid for 5 years. It could be, you know, so many different things to keep the price elevated. Right. And with the interest rates so incredibly low, it's actually not a bad idea, you know, in many ways. If you can get a good deal where you feel comfortable, New York is going to bounce back. There's no question.
Yeah, and especially if you're buying from a developer whose track record you know. So you know that the building is going to be well staffed, beautifully maintained. The amenities are going to be, you know, what you want them to be. Once we get beyond this very critical stage that we're in, those kinds of buildings where you don't have to go very far from home is to have the things you want to enjoy are going to be really important. And everyone, I understand from, I was in a meeting recently with with a few people who are in the sales office of the new developments, and they're saying, you know, you can get 20% off ask in terms of concessions at this point, and that's pretty amazing.
Right.
Another thing that I think is in the buyer's market, what do you have to lose? You know, because as the buyer, you're not going to say, "Oh, I should have waited 2 years." This is a once in a lifetime opportunity where interest rates are immensely low and a global thing happened that has made this an opportune time for you. So you have to take lemons and make them into lemonade. So you can't be, oh, I should wait. Why would you wait? Is it going to be any different in a month? It may be different. Things may get back a little bit more to normal. So if I were a buyer and I had these scary low interest rates and developers, everybody in anxiety, you're not going to lose. I especially in New York, also being someone who lived through 2008 and 9/11, New York always bounces back. You know, these are micro markets, and I would say if I was a buyer, I'd jump out there.
Right.
And Charlie, I wanted to know.
You and I know any number of people who've made their fortunes from buying townhouses in Brooklyn that nobody wanted.
Absolutely.
You bought the townhouse, you bought the one across the street, and these people and their families are sitting very pretty right now.
Very pretty. And I think one thing I think a lot of people forget is that, New York is global. I think there's a pause, of course, on the world because nobody can travel right now, but people will come back. I do agree with you, Scotty, on the high-end luxury market is going to take a hit. I do believe, you know, the sweet spot in New York is between 500,000 and 4 million. That's the stuff that moves because those are the people who work in New York who, if you are 2-family income and making let's say you're a CEO, not even a CEO, but if you're just a creative director for an ad firm and your partner is, you know, a physician. I mean, y'all bringing in, you know, close to $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. That is the sweet spot in New York. You're not relying on foreign money coming in, placing it, holding it where, you know, everything is going to be shut down. And them not truly living here, they don't really get the city and what the city offers and how the city bounces back. So they're going to say, I'm going to wait for a minute before they move out there and get into the fray of everything.
Nicole, I have a comment. I mean, you said that about the sweet spot. The other thing that we would need to remember here in New York, people lost jobs, but it's a certain group of people that lost jobs. You did not hear about the big giant firms losing, saying they're gonna fire these people. What they did, they put a pause. So their jobs are there. And if they have the money, they will continue to have the money right now. But you're talking about the lower end of the sector, price point wise, that did lose work, you know, so some more middle class or New York middle class, let's put that there. which is a very different group than the rest of the country. So you didn't hear about these hedge fund guys. You didn't hear Goldman Sachs losing jobs. You didn't hear about the bank guys losing jobs. So you have to think about that sweet spot. That's where they live, and those things are going to do well. So if you're a buyer in that, get out there and buy. And if you're a seller, you're going to have a different directive.
Right. One thing
Well,
about
I was going to make one comment.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, just to put the interest rate thing in perspective, since we're pretty much at the lowest point in interest rates, for the average person to understand that, it's the equivalent of, you know, I used to be able to afford a place that is 500,000. Now I can afford a place at 600,000 and have the same monthly. That's a big difference.
Right.
So, you know, extrapolate that to, you know, $1 million, then you're looking at a 1.2 place where your monthly is still the same. It's just you're paying less interest.
Right.
So that's a big change.
Yeah, and I think one thing that Nicole said, which is very key for people out there who's listening, who don't know the New York market. The New York market, I mean, we're not dealing with, I mean, one bedrooms in New York are anywhere between 400,000 to $1 million. That when you, depending on what neighborhood you're in. So if you're uptown, you're looking at one bedroom starting around 400, 450 for a one bedroom that's 600 square feet of space. But if you're downtown, maybe in Williamsburg, certain parts of Brooklyn, Dumbo, Park Slope, Brooklyn Heights, you might be looking at $1,000 a square foot for a one bedroom apartment that might be 800, 750 square feet, but that one bedroom might be $1,200, $1,500 a square foot, which puts that one bedroom at $1 million. So that's the numbers that you're talking about, and that we're talking about for the people that are out there listening, just so you guys have a headspace on where we are and where our market is. So I think that's one thing for us to understand. I think we lost Nicole. We'll bring her back. We've been having problems with our technology getting locked up. Okay. She's still there. We're at her back. If she comes back, not sure. So right now, Joanne, what are we seeing on the rental side of the market?
The rental side is quite busy. People continue to have to come to New York for work. Everyone I know who was anticipating coming to work either after graduation from college or, I had a number of people coming to New York after college, people coming from California to New York for job changes, and it's business as usual. They don't know when their start date is exactly, but they do know they need to be in New York by June sometime, before July. So it's inactive, and people are taking apartments just on video tours. They don't necessarily need to see the apartment. But of course, before the lease signing, they're going to want to at least walk through very quickly. But I'm very impressed by that people are making decisions on just by looking at video.
Right. And that's been something. We got Nicole back.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
Technical difficulties over here.
Don't worry about it. We got you. You look good in your future, by the way.
Thank you.
We're talking about the rental market, Nicole, now, and what's going on in the rental market, because we are seeing a lot of that. I just finished 2 deals, sight unseen, basically virtual. And a lot of people, for what's happening in the New York market, you guys out there, you can still show via pictures and video, and that's basically it. But when you get ready to actually go into the unit, get ready to purchase it or sign a contract or sign a lease agreement, you do get an opportunity to go and visit the property before you have to sign on the dotted line. So, and that's just to minimize people coming and going in and out of the property. Also, too, just for setup purposes, you can go in, take photographs. If the apartment is empty, you can take photographs, get it virtually staged, get a 3D rendering, which therefore you can have a virtual reality of the place. if you want to put it on the market and if it's empty. Scotty, are people moving downtown? Are you seeing anything movement downtown on the rental market or no?
No.
Well, God, it's tough. It's tough down here. I know Brooklyn is a little more Wild West for those who don't understand New York. You can, you have smaller buildings. You can get away with a little more.
Mm-hmm.
The other main difference is that I'm dealing with co-op rentals right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if the governor says we're all free to show, the co-op can say,
no.
Mm-hmm. You're not free to show. So right now I have a loft for rent in Tribeca, which would normally rent in 2 seconds. It's $8,900 a month. I know it sounds like a lot of money. It is. The building is allowing me access. The owner is allowing me access. It's a private elevator bank with a private entrance. So, you're not coming in contact with a lot of people. But guess what? The tenant said, I'm moving out May 29th, and you are not allowed in, and nobody's allowed in until we leave.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. That's the end. Can't do anything.
Are they able to do a video tour?
I have I have video tour. I have old pictures, but people are requesting to show it, and I can't show it.
Yeah.
So my owner's gonna lose a month of rent at least when these people move out, and God knows what's gonna happen with painting and getting the apartment prepped.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm dealing with a 1-bedroom apartment for like $4,500 on Minetta Lane, also a co-op. They do not allow any broker access whatsoever. Nobody from the outside can come into the building, period. Well, thankfully, there's a broker who I'm co-listing it with because she lives in the building.
Right.
So she went to take crappy photos on her phone and we're trying to do what we can, and it's not easy. Our hands are tied with a lot of these things.
We've got a lot of interest for it, I would imagine.
We have some interest. Somebody wants to buy it, but there's literally nothing I can do. So it's like once the restrictions are lifted, I'm not going to have any sleep. It's going to be so busy. But until then, I'm twiddling my thumbs and trying to do everything I can virtually. People want to see it, but there's nothing we can do, and nobody wants to sign anything until they can physically be there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one thing that I was thinking, that people think it's a lost market, that the spring market is a lost market, but it's a deferred market.
Deferred market.
July, August, where everybody goes away, is going to be so busy because it's pent up demand. People need to move. Even if it's a rental or a sale, things have to happen. And my rentals, for sure, you're right about Brooklyn being a little different because we have private houses and so on and so forth. A lot of the owners are willing to show the apartment themselves, but you still have, if it's occupied, the person is concerned about someone coming in. If it's not occupied, then it's a whole lot easier to do. You do your virtuals and all of that. And then the owners sometimes will let the person in at the last, right before the lease signing. So there's interest, there are calls and all of that happening, but there is a moratorium on actual showings as agents. And so you have to come up with creative ways. And I'm all about creativity. So, we got to stay creative.
In some ways, I think the rental market is benefiting from this because there was a bit of a standoff in pricing.
Yeah.
We're very clear on not lowering or giving certain concessions. I mean, of course, large developers, they were willing to do those kinds of things, but it was hard to get the small landlords to make certain kinds of concessions. But now I think that they're much more comfortable with the idea of, I'm going to do what it takes to get a good tenant. And that's what you need. It's not necessarily about how much money you get a month. It's really more about what kind of stability do you have in this building in terms of your tenants and low vacancy rates.
Also,
Right.
the percentage
And
of
I know,
amounts of apartments that are on the market now, before it had gone down really low, they've come back. The people who are trying to rent their apartments, they are back and ready to negotiate and ready to make a move. They've lost that 1 month's rent. So if you amortize it over the time, our percentage, I mean, we've got 50% more apartments up for rent now than we did in March, which is great.
right. Right. And I think also too, one of the things to know about that is renters, 75% of New York is a rentals market, 25% is for sales. So that is even the major difference when you look at it, because I think one of the things that people tend to forget is that the neighborhoods themselves, I don't know if we're still live or not. Are we still live? Can y'all let us know if we're still live? It's freezing up.
I think we're live.
I am. I'm live.
Okay, just the clock over here stopped for a minute. So anyway, we've been having this whole feed has been crazy. But the bottom line is 75% of New York is rental. It's a rentals market. 25% is for sale. Mm-hmm. So when everybody was complaining about the rent strike and everything that was happening, people were like, "Oh my God, am I going to get my rent? Am I going to get my rent?" Because landlords really knew it's all about making sure, and that's why you want to have a good broker. You want to have a good broker because brokers are on your side and making sure they get tenants in there that can pay your rent, that will not be a problem, and then you will be able to negotiate and work with if things like this happen. So that's the importance of making sure that you get good brokers like ourselves, because if you don't, you're basically out there playing a Russian roulette. Let's talk about the interest rates, because one thing about interest rates being low, but also too, the banks have frozen they're doing so many refis right now that you got to have a higher credit score now before you buy a house with a 640, 650 credit score, but now that's been pushed up to almost 700. So if you are in the market for buying, you definitely got to make sure that you have your credit got to be on point, because now when I had Max on last time, the biggest thing is banks really scrutinizing their deals, because they already know that what's going to come on the back end of this is some foreclosures, and they definitely don't want that to happen. So we got to think about that. Are you having any of your clients having any problems getting pre-approvals or anything like that?
I'm not having problems getting any pre-approvals, but what I am telling a lot of them who are out there trying to buy right now is to pay down the debt so their credit cards are at a 30%. If they're at that break-even margin where the numbers, they're not over that 700 bump, or they're not even up to like 720. If they pay down all their as many credit cards as they can to 30%, that's almost a natural couple point thing. So this is May. If you do that in May, by June, if you're at 698 or something like that, and you need that bump, go on ahead and you have a little extra cash, pay down just to 30%, and you'll get 5 points on there that you need for the banks now to give you a nod.
Right.
Those are some of the small things, if you're right on the bubble, that I am recommending for my clients to definitely see it and do it all if you do it now in May, when they do their reporting for June, you're going to come out looking pretty.
Right. What do you guys think from shifting that focus to commercial and businesses that's happening in the neighborhood? We always talk about how landlords were charging too much for their rents. Mm-hmm. We saw certain neighborhoods before the pandemic, like Chelsea on 8th Avenue, building after building, stores up for lease, even down in the Village and all over the city, because just the makeup of commercial and brick and mortar has changed. So coming out of this now, this is the fabric of New York, going out, socializing, restaurants, bars, the whole 9 yards. What do you guys foresee happening? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I can chime in on this for the Village. This is a great reckoning right here with landlords and how much they've been, I hate to say, getting away with in terms of rent. because restaurants and bars have always paid the most.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to see deals that are shorter in terms of the amount of years. We're going to see lower rents. We're going to see a lot of restaurants, unfortunately, and it breaks my heart, go out of business.
Yeah.
But what we're also going to see, and it may take a little bit of time, is the new influx of fresh new restaurants and new ideas and new things. And I think one of the proposals that's interesting out there are closing off some streets so that some restaurants can have outdoor seating for the summer. And I think that could be a good way to help the restaurants that are currently still there survive over the next couple months.
Oh, wow.
Not to mention, it could be a fun thing. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime thing for us New Yorkers to have, like, you know, almost like a New Orleans style environment.
Yes.
You know, I went to the bar the other day, you know, grabbed a drink from the outside takeout, you know, margarita, walked down the street with it. You know, we've never been able to do that here. It's revolutionary.
I agree, and I think that that's a conversation for a whole other show, Charlie, because when you really start to reimagine what New York can look like and will look like, it's to me fascinating because I'm seeing it every day, just how it's changing organically and still itself, but at the same time becoming so much more livable. Well, I think that's going on all over the planet, right? Isn't carbon emissions like incredibly low now? And, you know, people are just living differently. Eye contact alone, when all you've got is a mask, people crave that connection. Whereas, you know, prior to COVID-19, you'd walk by a person and never, ever look at them. Like they weren't even there. It's just now you're seeing people really craving engagement. And ways to live simpler, closer to home. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the things that interests me the most is that New Yorkers, I think it's going to become a younger city.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see the older people who might be, let's say 65 plus, leave and go ahead and do that Florida early exit to Florida into Arizona to get that sun. But I think it's going to be a very fun, energetic, once they can control it, you know, till we get to a point of knowing what social distancing and how that works, until we get a vaccine and all that kind of stuff too. But I think it's going to bring on, like what Scotty said, a very innovative way. This might be the first time they get that, what is it? They wanted to do that fair below 86th Street. What's that called? I forgot. They've been trying to usher in to pay you know, to get a car below 86th.
Pricing.
Yes, congestion pricing. They might be able to enact that now. I see a lot of streets closing down, like you said, and just creating walkways all over the city. And it would be amazing if New York became a walkable city, street after street after street. You know, very interesting to see that. You know,
even bikes were beginning to. I think you were beginning to see less bikers. Because traffic was just, especially in downtown Brooklyn, becoming. Are you there?
Yeah, we're there.
I thought I lost you guys. No, it was for a while. You started to see a leveling off of biking, but now it's just so much more. And that's really, I'm happy to see that. And, you know, people who I know, highly intelligent, do very valuable work. They just don't make the Wall Street money. You know, now they're calling like, so Joanne, you think I might be able to get that brownstone after all? You know, the possibility that people might leave, there might be some flight, and they want to capitalize on it. They're not going anywhere. This is home. This is where they want to be. They know this is where they want to be. And now this is maybe an opportunity for them to not be a renter.
Right. True. Go ahead, Scotty.
Yeah, I was going to mention, this is a massive, we're on the beginning of a massive reshuffling of the deck in many ways. You know, so, and you can look at it as a very exciting thing. You know, yes, everybody always talks about moving to the suburbs. You know, that's never changed, by the way.
Right.
So maybe it just put the fast forward button on it for some people.
Mm-hmm.
But we're also talking about people in maybe crappy relationships wanting to get out and find their own place finally. Crappy roommate situations, wanting to get out and find their own place. People moving from the 35th floor of a building with multiple elevator banks going to their brownstone. People moving out to different parts of Brooklyn. People moving back in the city to be closer to their work. I mean, everything is going to be reimagined. And nobody knows the answer. There isn't one thing you can point to that is definitively going to happen over everything else. It's kind of exciting.
You know, that's so exciting, because the truth of the matter is, because you are home, you know now the deficiencies of your home and what you can and cannot live with anymore. So the idea that you've been in a tiny apartment, whether it was by yourself or with a roommate, you know, before it was tangible, you could live with it because you went to work most of the day. Now you're like, you know what, I need more space, or I need that outdoor space, or I don't want to live in Manhattan. I want to live in Brooklyn, where I know my neighbors a lot more. I think that reshuffling and reimagining of how I want to live is definitely something. People who said, oh, I can live in an apartment forever, all of a sudden they realize, you know, this apartment is really crowded. We might be able to jump out there and buy that house in Brooklyn or Queens or even Staten Island. I've actually heard of people moving. I know it sounds terrible, but moving to Staten Island. The forgotten borough, But at the same time, you know, the opportunities are there, and you really have to say to yourself, especially during this pandemic and after the pandemic, you have to keep yourself in a positive mind frame. What can this do? How can I reshuffle? What can I do to make my life better? How can I turn that corner? And if we use it that way, I think real estate, everything across the board, I think we're going to do better.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
And better doesn't mean more expensive, by the way.
Right.
It's just happier people. Happier people in their homes.
Yeah. And then also, too, you got people now who could escape the city, who have no idea. They'll probably stay away, which is probably good. You know, New York is going to have a different energy. I think you're going to get people who are going to say, oh, I want to move to the suburbs. Okay, go to the suburbs, because there are going to be people still coming. You still have the Googles of the world that are still here. You still have all the major law firms. You still have the Facebooks of the world, all the software companies, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, they can be here, but they can still work from home. So the office world is also going to be reshuffling and reimagining how they do it, because before, all these new offices in New York were all open offices. Now we're going to probably closed office type of situation. So it's just going to be a reshuffling and reimagining everywhere. Somebody put up here, they said, what do we think is going to happen with the Airbnb climate after all of this happens? Good question.
Airbnb is taking a hit. A lot of my rentals are from Airbnb owners who, you know, it's just dead in the market. It's just dead in the water. So I have a lot of landlords who had Airbnbs who have just decided, let's put it on the market. They're doing it in a different, they're making it available for long-term and furnished, but of course they're also making it available short-term, long-term and unfurnished, and they're also making it available short-term and furnished, but of course for like 3 to 6 months.
I definitely think like the stomach for having more, multiple guests is definitely gone down. I think people are more very concerned about their health and their safety. And I think, as Joanne said, they're going for the long-term tenant for now, because they just want less exposure while all of this is going on. And I think I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for some of these units to come back onto the market for regular New Yorkers. And it goes back to what Scotty said about now is the time to move out and you don't have to live with a roommate. Now's the time to get that garden apartment because all of a sudden it's now available. And owners will see, you know what, I actually like having a long-term tenant. I can borrow sugar. You can watch out for me a little bit. So,
I love it.
Don't knock on my door. Okay.
You won't get any sugar, Scotty. You get a cocktail.
No.
No, you're absolutely right. I agree.
I do too. 100%. So in closing, let's part because we're almost approaching 1 o'clock. We know New York is going to be different. She's always, after September 11th, after 2008, after Sandy. People forgot about Sandy too.
Oh, yeah, yes, Sandy.
Sandy changed New York too from a real estate perspective.
Yes,
So now we're witnessing this, and like you said, reimagining this. I'm really excited, to be honest with you, because I see all the opportunities that's out there. And that's why people are like, well, from a broker standpoint, where are you? I'm like, well, it's a pause right now, but we're starting to move because I'm busier now than ever. Pause back in March. But you can see where it's starting to, what people are investing in. And like you said, Nicole, outdoor space is going to be key. So that's going to be a premium. Big buildings, not so much, high rises and stuff, and elevator cabs and all the regulations that they currently have right now, not so much. I think more interested because, we always used to sell apartment based on location and the amenities in the neighborhood. So that's what's going to be interesting, I think, to me, on what's left after all of this, and what does your neighborhood look like?
One thing I would, are you?
Yep, go ahead. Go, Joe.
I was going to say before we go, I would suggest to anyone listening, whether they're a New Yorker or elsewhere in the country, I think it's really important to stay engaged with your mortgage broker, your real estate broker, your attorney. Just keep having these kinds of conversations so that you can take advantage of opportunities that are going to be coming along. Not only just for you, but opportunities that your kids might be able to benefit from. So many people have, college graduates now. There are great opportunities out there, and you only get to know by being in the know. And that comes from having this kind of dialogue with people who can help you get where you're trying to go.
Exactly. Scotty, any closing words?
Yeah, well, I was going to say it's such a great opportunity. I mean, maybe not right this second, but this summer, explore different neighborhoods. If you're comfortable on a certain train line that you happen to not hate, see what the next neighborhood down the train line is. Go to Queens. Hello, Queens is a great opportunity. Try different parts of Manhattan. Try different streets. Look into walk-ups in small co-ops where you're not getting a high-rise and the doorman, but you're getting a little boutique building that, you don't have to deal with people hanging out in the lobby or anything. People are in and out. It's a different dynamic. So reshuffle everything you thought about because this could be very different right now. Your needs can totally change.
Right, totally. The unique part about all of us is that we all live in brownstones. And so we don't have to think about it. We all live in brownstones. We don't live in big buildings. So it's just us and maybe one or two other people. And that's it. And that, I'm telling you, is the best way because I haven't even thought about, that aspect of, oh my God, I got to wait on an elevator, come down or whatever the case may be. Nicole, you got any parting words?
I do. I have something to say is that one thing I try to remember is they're not making any more land. That's the one thing they can't make any more of. And if you were the one that worked hard and saved your money and you couldn't jump in and you didn't think it was possible, look for a way. There are ways here. And if you're someone whose back is up against the wall, again, cooperative living, cooperative things like, senior share housing. If you're an older person and your back is now against the wall, a lot of these young people need somewhere to live and they'll do the work for you. So think in cooperation. I think no matter what happens, the slogan for the pandemic is we're all in this together. And if
Right.
you keep thinking in that group think, I think you can come out on top.
Definitely. And on that note, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you guys for tuning in with us.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. And I'll see you on the next deal. Hopefully.
Yeah, let's do this again.
Bye.
Take care. Y'all later.